We can open with how
Wait,
I'm
wait. I'm serious.
logically dumb that I can't turn off.
Wait. Okay. Well, we're live. Sorry. That's it.
Good morning, Twitter.
And speaking of Bing Bongs, all right,
Jeff and
Caitlin,
I,
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, Jeff and I have been laughing all morning because, like, I'm like really not technologically
There you
speaking
go.
of it.
If you'd like to send
Technologically,
Caitlin an email right now and have it Bing on on the podcast, feel free.
yeah, that is exactly what's happening even on my MacBook. And yeah, so like I can't turn off the notifications. I'll figure it out. Don't worry. I'm really scrappy like that. It just will be dinging in the background today, and that's what's going to be. So we've been laughing about it all
Yeah,
morning.
it's it's etiquette. If you can turn it off, if you are on a call like this, you should. But if you don't, if you can't,
Yeah, no,
then
I'm
whatever.
my husband is very smart with technology. I am mediocre at best.
Mm,
Let's just say I'm really good at what I need to know on the computer,
right.
and that's where my limit is.
So let me put a plug in before we get started. Go on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/rhinopod. We just did an episode on Jonah Goldberg and feeling like this sort of crossed the threshold of non-conservatism. And I fear that he won't be coming back. But few clearly his tweet from last night and his appearance on CNN earlier in the week, where basically saying, "Well, we should fix the government, but not like this." And no, it's exactly like this. This is how it needs to happen. Anyway, go to patreon.com/rhinopod. Only $1 a month, you freaking cheapskates. So get on there and go for extra content. Okay. Bing bong.
So
All right.
I it's
We're,
probably mostly emails where I'm getting coupons codes for clothes. So
oh, you
yeah.
got to have those go to your
I know, and
promotions folder.
they still ding. So yeah.
um, so Ukraine, war in Ukraine, and we've talked about this a bunch on the podcast. But essentially, where it is right now is a stalemate, and the only question I think right now is, do we want it to end or keep going?
Um,
I I, I
in my personal opinion, I think that okay. So I'm gonna give this very neutral, non-emotional personal opinion because when Russia invaded Ukraine, obviously we were all really upset because they invaded Ukraine. It's not only just an invasion of Ukraine, but also an invasion of Europe, right, by Russia. Because before, when he did with Crimea, it was more stealthy, and I don't really consider the country of Georgia to be Europe. So, anyway, it was horrifying because war is horrific, and it was a lot of confusion. I thought that Zelensky was really noble when it happened, and he didn't take, the American helicopter ride out of Kiev, and all of that, right? Like I didn't like seeing Russian troops kind of rolling into the eastern side of Ukraine and really taking territory. I didn't like seeing that. Okay. With that said, Russia took a real huge strategy risk with doing this invasion, right, Jeff? Because in response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, they had sanctions put on them. Essentially, a lot of assets frozen across the globe. Switzerland came out and put sanctions on them, which is a big deal. Um, they're usually pretty neutral. And there was real worldwide pushback to this obvious war of aggression. Okay. I still believe it is a war of aggression. This is where I completely go off and disagree with Donald Trump. But
this
let
is
me
important.
let
Can
me
let's
let
stay
me
on this for a
preface
second.
this by saying this. I have started to not be so happy with Zelensky over time. Okay. I do not agree that you should be taking pictures with Hollywood actors not only to promote them because that's what they're doing, but also to promote you, right? Like you should be the face of an independence movement against a Russian aggression, and I don't need you taking pictures with Hollywood actors. That was like the first time where I was like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Donald Trump, and this is a call it the isolationists are wrong on multiple fronts. This is the comic Dave Smith's take, where it's they provoked the war. Ukrainians provoked the war. It's like
no,
you don't provoke war. The war starts when you start shooting and bombing and killing other people. Like
no,
that's
Russia definitely provoked the war.
no,
Okay.
no, no, no. They're saying Ukraine. Like Dave Smith, like you're
Yeah,
saying
because
Ukraine
they're
provoked it.
saying
Yeah.
that yeah, they're saying that Ukraine provoked it by electing someone like Zelensky. They provoked it through past actions. They provoked it through wanting NATO membership, and Russia can't have another NATO ally on their border. They say that it's kind of like they use the same type of argument that Israel uses with Gaza, right? Like Israel can only stand so much violence that Gaza puts forward, and so that's the reason why they went in. And so they think of Israel as the aggressor on Gaza. It's not the case.
Yeah.
That's warped, right? Their arguments on Ukraine provoking this, I think, are pretty warped too. Ukraine has every right to be a sovereign and independent nation, free from Russian control, because that's the world that we live in now. That is what the Ukrainians want, and that's what they continually keep voting for. And so, but you have to understand there's a lot of mixed history in that area, that is kind of hard for Americans to really understand.
It is, but the dumb ones like Dave Smith purport to think that
They they
they
have a childlike view of the entire
yeah,
world,
yeah.
and so I cannot relate to any of these people. I'm sorry, but like to say that Ukraine provoked Russia into war when that really didn't happen. No, 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 no. Like Russia invaded Ukraine. Like that is what
That
happened.
look
Okay.
and the
They were putting weapons on the border. We all saw it in that fall and into December. Everyone said that they were saber rattling. And I said this on the podcast. I said, I think Russia is going in, Jeff.
mm,
They put a ton of resources on the border. Russia, a lot of people don't really understand this, has like the GDP of Italy. And if you've ever been to Italy, I've been to Italy, not the richest nation. And people are kind of shocked about that. Um, Russia's GDP is close to that, except it's a huge nation, right? It has a lot of land, and then its urban centers are really packed. Um, so along with that, they also, still have kind of their old Soviet defense companies still around, except they're like now kind of nationalized companies.
oligarchs. I mean, the oligarchs run
They're,
the whole.
they're
Yeah,
oligarchs. That's what they are. They don't
and
have true.
Putin
They
gets
don't have
half.
true. Yeah, they don't have true capitalism in Russia. Um, Russia's really hurting right now. I don't know what else to say here. I think that they're stuck in a spot, right? Like they have almost lost like was it 800,000 men in Ukraine? That's a lot.
That doesn't sound right. No, cat
I think it's that high, Jeff.
800
It
wait,
is a pretty
lost
high
or
number.
like casualties, like wounded.
I think it's wounded and casualties together.
All right, wounded and deaths. I mean, maybe if you're doing wounded and deaths, you get that high. But like, we lost around 60,000 men in Vietnam.
Well, because
I just don't
we
think
also
that
didn't put
it's.
our full force of our military into
Yeah.
Vietnam when it happened, but at the same time, like Russia's putting a lot of resources into
Okay.
this invasion of
All
Ukraine.
right. That's
And
not that. All right.
again, it was a strategic risk for Putin to take this action and go into Ukraine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Their economy is affected because now their economy is completely revolving around their war. Their military is affected because they have depleted most of their weapons and equipment, and production time on that is pretty long. Um, so I think actually Russia is in how can I say this? Both countries are in a bad spot right now. but Russia probably really wants peace. And they want to kind of have acknowledgement of territory they've already taken, like these two, Ukrainian independent areas, and all of that.
I,
My personal opinion on what's going on right now is that Zelensky really needs to learn how to negotiate as a leader of a country. And he is not doing that, and he's not doing it well. Okay? You cannot go to a weapons factory in Pennsylvania, of all places, that is owned by a Democratic fundraiser with the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania when Donald Trump is currently leading in the polls and is most likely that he is going to win and do a photo op there, okay? And then expect Donald Trump to be nice to you on the tail end because of, I don't know, international liberalism. Donald Trump doesn't subscribe to that ideology in foreign policy, guys. Like, he does not believe in the international coalition of allies where we all play nice and we ignore the fact that Germany hasn't had the GDP defense spending in their country since the Cold War and finally hit it last year. Okay? There is a new era of foreign policy, and everybody just needs to get on board. We
the
are the superpower.
I don't know. Zelensky, obviously, yeah, I agree.
It's
I have
complicated.
feelings now. Hang on, I have feelings now about him that similar to yours. My opinion of him has eroded over time. But what do, right? You need bullets, bombs, guns, and men to retake the territory that has been lost. If you're going to launch a major counteroffensive to do so, okay, but are you? They've tried that several times. They haven't been successful, maybe taking bits and pieces. The question then arises is what do you do? I say you negotiate a peace, okay? And then do you arm yourself to the teeth after the fact to prevent further aggression?
Like
Probably. I would
like the polls. What
yeah.
like the polls?
Yeah, like just nothing but missiles. Don't waste it on tanks. Tanks aren't gonna.
I
You
mean,
need
yeah,
planes.
I
You
mean,
need planes and
without
missiles.
even NATO membership, Ukraine probably needs to arm itself to the teeth
Yeah,
going forward.
because and then, but this is and the American taxpayer, rightly, this is Donald Trump and I guess Vance's and a lot of more conservative, and I'm kind of in the midst of it. I want Russia to lose, but they're not going to lose the territory that they've gained. That's a reality, unless they get pushed back, and that'll cost more money. That who's funding it? We're paying for this, and to the fact that we see billions and billions of dollars of our taxpayer money and our debt go out the door, and we hear about rampant corruption, and the Democrats are just turning a blind eye to it. Biden did forever. What do you do? There's no easy answers in this situation, but an end to the war and then arm Ukraine to the teeth is probably the best outcome right now, barring Russia just withdrawing from other areas. Stop fighting, arm to the teeth, live to fight another day.
Right. I think that we're at a point now where, I think Russia's going to keep these territories that they took in Ukraine. I think that that's very unfortunate. I And trust me, I think Russia's asks, as we have seen from the Saudi Arabia summit, are insane. Because Russia is Russia, and this is what they truly believe, Jeff. Like, we're dealing with a people that believe that they won World War II on their own. Okay, like Russians believe this. Um,
I mean,
and
that's not entire. They did yeah, not on their own. Obviously, there
No,
was, but
Russia would never have been able to get to Berlin unless resources were taken out of Eastern Europe
yeah,
in order to push off the Western advance of the United
correct. But
States.
the Nazis.
I'm sorry,
I know
but
we're doing a little
like
tangent here, but the Nazis went
right,
hard on Russia. They wanted that area. They believed it belonged to
putting
them more so
the
than to the west of them.
Right, but you had to split the two fronts in order to
Hmm.
come back and take Berlin, right?
Yeah.
Russia thinks that they were going to get Berlin without a Western
Yeah,
advance. Like this is what
maybe modern
Russians.
Russians, not the
Oh,
people that lived through
no, that
it.
I mean, I think that Stalin didn't truly believe that as well, and he could see what the reality of the situation is
Yeah.
on the ground, right? Even though he was a massive prick at the Yalta conference and other conferences. And it's one of these things where we're dealing with a country that they're delusional on what they want. And we're dealing with a Putin who's probably his health is not great and we have to wait him out. And so but they've been saying that to you for years,
Yeah.
I will say. And all of that. So what do we go with next, right? So what I don't appreciate right now is first of all, really pro-Ukraine conservatives, basically saying that the United States hasn't done enough, which is fucking bullshit.
Yeah, that's not true. We've done a
It's
lot.
not true. Like it's not true, and you're being as delusional as these pro-Russian people because to say that we have not done enough is insane. We have done more than enough. Um, What I don't like is the fact that we have Reaganite conservatives saying that American investment in Ukraine is not enough of a security guarantee. And the point is that it becomes a security guarantee, and then we negotiate more security guarantees. Like I don't know how I can constantly like talk to people who like have their brains so warped in hating anything that they would like to say that an American investment is not a security guarantee at all. Of course it is, because we're talking about resources here.
Well,
Like,
if
don't
that was what Rubio was talking about last week. All right. So,
I don't appreciate Zelensky meeting with our Secretary of the Treasury, them talking about a deal, and then him saying something else in the press. I do not appreciate that.
mm,
I'm sorry. I'm going to back our Secretary of the Treasury over Zelensky here. Okay? I'm not going to undercut Secretary Rubio in order to promote Zelensky because again, the mythos is getting a little tiresome, okay? Like I need some honorable negotiations here and I need the Ukrainians to maybe step up and back us so we can back you. Okay, that's how these things work. And I don't understand how people can say that like even in the past that these actions have not ever been transactional because they definitely have been.
well, it's naive to think that any of these things aren't transactional from any of
Right.
these conferences. And I would say you brought up a point that yet to consider. I mean, if you're Ukraine, negotiate a peace, the best terms you possibly can get, arm yourself to the teeth, and when Putin kicks the bucket, you go back and take what you had to begin with. You retake that territory. Why not? I mean, like I get it. But you'd sort of need a pause to do it. Russia would need to pull out their resources, which they would if there is a peace. But Putin's gone. You go in there, you retake what you think is rightfully yours, and sort of restart the conflict again. But if you grab it, you grab it. There's no easy answers on this. I think, but from an American standpoint, we have to. Europe should be shouldering the cost of this, not us. And
Absolutely.
that's
Because
changing, and that's a good thing.
it
Uh,
is a good thing. Like the thing is like I want Europe to be stronger. Like I've even said this in the past when talking about Macron. I think that his rhetoric on this has been great. And it was even when he was first came into the role that he is. He was talking about how Europe needs to get stronger, but then you see like the internal politics of the EU with France and Germany, right? France wants this European strength versus Germany, who doesn't, right? Because Germany wants to protect their own domestic interest. And at that time, their domestic interest was getting Russian oil.
yeah,
Um, and France actually does have relative energy independence because they, I don't know,
nuclear.
built nuclear infrastructure and really smart on it.
Yeah.
So France can do that. And so I agree with Macron. I want a stronger Europe and I want them to shoulder their defense. I need them to step up. Um, I guess the EU leaders had a meeting also kind of after Rubio met with the Russian leaders, and I was not surprised that the meeting was less than stellar because again, you have Macron who is very supportive of a stronger Europe. You have Starmer who is kind of rhetorically on the same page as France, but doesn't really promote that because he's, his political party in the UK is idiots. And then you have Meloni in Italy who is standing up for Ukraine. I don't think that she just agrees with France and UK. And then you
She
had Schultz.
despises the French, though. That's the problem.
Right. And then you have Schultz who is probably going to be replaced in Germany probably within the next 2 days. And so we'll see what happens going forward. I did read this morning that Zelensky said he'll step down as president of Ukraine if they get NATO membership. I think that's a high ask. It'll probably be negotiated down in some way. I don't think it's an unreasonable ask for Ukraine to want that. Don't get me wrong. I think they want this so bad. I don't think Russia is going to agree to them having NATO membership.
They're
That is
not.
the problem.
To
It
to
is a red line for them.
to
It
the
is.
to
I
the
hate
Amer-
saying that.
to the Americans that are sympathetic to the Russian view or promote the Russian view. Let's and I'm
And
not even trying to convince them right now. I'm just saying your
you're
count.
dum-dums.
Yeah, yeah,
I can't.
but the counterpoint to that is that NATO membership, NATO exists because of past Russian aggression. Because Russian and aggression meaning invading with tanks, soldiers, bullets, bombs, and guns, other countries. Okay, these were the Eastern Bloc states in the Cold War. They have a history of doing this. They did this in Afghanistan. Now, most recently, they've done it in Ukraine. They do this. And to act like they don't do this and that NATO is just some paper tiger for no reason whatsoever is foolish. NATO exists for a reason, okay? And Russian aggression is the reason.
Well,
So,
and they're starting to spend more on defense.
mhm,
Again, this invasion was a high risk choice by Putin. What he did was he pissed off NATO, even if the United States has been kind of, I don't know, just sending weapons and aid. Like the rest of Europe is on high alert. They're going to be defense spending like crazy for the next at least 20 years.
yeah,
Braun again wanted to lift France's defense spending of their GDP from like what? I think it's like 2.5. He wants to go to full 5. That is a lot.
yeah. The look,
That is a
the
lot for France.
The Russian invasion of Ukraine can be marked as a failure.
I mean, if you were
It
able,
can be.
if the invasion of Ukraine was able to get Germany to, I don't know, find their ball sack and actually hit, the defense spending that they need to be hitting for, okay, let's give it to them 1 year. Um, then that's a huge move. I mean, and it's definitely a complete 180 of, Angela Merkel speaking out two sides her mouth to Putin and then to the rest of Europe. So, um, I I think that this is a complicated situation. I think that people need to get their expectations way down and how this is going to end. I think
Mm,
that Zelensky needs to play this way smarter than he actually is. I think that Donald Trump needs to cool it and not go on a barrage saying Russian talking points because that's fucking embarrassing
mm.
and boot Tucker Carlson out of there. Again, dealing with Donald Trump is a lot of flattery. I mean, you got to learn how to deal with this. This is what diplomacy is. And I do blame Zelensky for not understanding that, right? You're the president. So I do blame you. And I don't think that President Duda out of Poland needs to put out there publicly to get your shit together because that's basically what his last statement read to me as. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I want this to end because I think it's horrific. Good I want a good, I guess, security guarantee for Ukraine. I just don't think the expectations are where they need to be for a reasonable end to happen right now. I don't know.
All right, moving on.
Sure.
There's this. we'll see. We'll see what the next weeks and months bring. Um, Next, it's about the bike lanes, stupid. So I wrote a piece, and I'm gonna just publish on X probably more, if not exclusively. A little bit of disclosure here. I wrote a few articles last year for Commonwealth Beacon, which is I'd say a local news outlet, where they cover local politics, right? Massachusetts politics, New England politics, and I definitely pissed some people off with my take on the T, which I think it should be revolutionized for a technological advancement. The liberals entrenched in power don't want that. They want to believe in the fixed cost fallacy of what we have in the T. It should go away. So that got published. I wrote an article on how WGBH and WBUR should be merged, and we are seeing the collapse of public media. And I wrote an article on the Milton case of the MBTA Communities Act. So that's they all got published, but then right before they started changing editors, there's a new editor over there, and I'm not saying it's the editor or anything. I submitted a few pieces, and they just no response. Not even like, we'll work with you, or Jeff, are you sure about this? And then I was like, all right, I'm not going to take it too personally in the sense that maybe they want to change direction. And I think they have. O'Sullivan's rule is taking place. Any organization that is not explicitly conservative will become liberal over time. And look, I think there's definitely a place in Massachusetts for both sides to hear their arguments, but it doesn't appear to be in Commonwealth Beacon. I mean, maybe a couple of the guys from the Pioneer Institute get published every 6 months, but normally it is a straight diet of progressive activism in the opinion pages. Both at the Globe and now I think Commonwealth Beacon. So I'm not getting published there anymore. So I'm going to write. I like writing. I enjoy it. X has this platform. I'm going to do it. So if you go to my page and my profile, and you can find the articles tab, go give it a read. But essentially, the biggest applause line Josh Kraft got at his kickoff was that he's going to pause all construction on bike lanes. Now, he didn't say he's going to tear the current ones down, but he said he's going to stop building bike lanes.
Because they're annoying. First of all, let's start off. Jeff, when I drive into Boston, and I drive into Boston often because again, I also live on the North Shore. My shoe guy, my cobbler that I go to, my shoe repairman is down in the financial district, and it is fucking annoying driving into Boston and dealing with bike lanes all over the place and very wide for a urban city. I understand that a lot of YIMBYs want this because it would push down on congestion. It actually makes congestion worse, in my personal opinion. Um, but then I'm also, when I go down there, sometimes I have to go around the Boston Common, and the bike lanes around the Boston Common are like almost a full lane out.
Yep.
And it's hard to navigate at times when you go into Boston. You see these bike lanes, they're insane. And guess what? No one's driving and no one's biking in them.
Yep. Yep.
Not
Completely
even in the
empty.
summer. Not even in the summer. Okay. I get that it's January right now. We've had a ton of snow,
It's
but no.
February.
Oh, sorry. My brain.
It's almost March.
It's almost March. Next week is
But
March.
so for 3 months, there's been nobody in the bike lanes, and
Nobody been in the bike lanes. They're not even in the bike lanes in the summer, Jeff. Let's be real.
for a few hours in the morning, they are.
Okay.
And not even all of them. They're the biggest waste of space. They're
You
they,
don't need a
they're
wide, you don't need a wide bike lane in Boston. Like,
you
come
don't
on.
need
Like,
a bike. You don't need a bike. This is your hobby, and you've badgered and berated your local politicians to make it a form of transportation, a valid form of transportation. It should not be. Walk, or take the T, or take an Uber, or drive in. That's it. That's what 95% of the citizens of this Commonwealth, of the great state of Massachusetts, want. An loud, obnoxious minority are advocating for this. And they say safety, safety. You know what's safer than your bike lanes? Walking and taking the T. So do that. They don't belong on there. And I think this issue is going to be a boon for Josh Kraft. Um, it's what it represents. Just top down, snooty, snotty, I know better than you attitude that Michelle Wu has towards everybody. Towards everybody. She's pushing forward this demolition of the soccer or the new soccer stadium in Dorchester, and it is like the price tag keeps going up, and there's no clarity on who's paying for it. The tag for the Boston taxpayers is now up to $100 million. Apparently, it started off at 20 or 30.
The 100 million, and their public schools don't even have the infrastructure to keep kids warm in the
Yeah,
middle.
or air conditioning in the hot weather. Like it is
I
fucking
think
bananas. You're like, if she's
that's so
trying to
terrible.
lose this election, she's doing a good job of it. It is wild, and she's just barreling ahead. She knows best, and you will like it. It's. I won't
I
say
think
it's
it's
unbelievable,
also
but
I think it's also I don't like the way that I don't like her bedside manner. How can I say this? Again, she knows best. And she does it in a way where it's like if you oppose her, you're the silly one. And it's like, no, like you're not normal.
yeah, no,
Uh,
yeah,
like you're the weirdo, right? Like I have to say, like Michelle Wu, like you're the bizarre one here. Um, like it's like, oh, if you don't support this, like it's like no, like y you don't get it,
she don't.
Michelle.
They don't get it. I am hopeful that the era of know nothing progressivism is rapidly coming to an end, where these sanctimonious lecturers who just regurgitate equity and justice and equity and the equity of justice and all this nonsense, it's going to come to an end. It's come to a crashing end by a billionaire heir who just wants to make things work normally. And I
I,
hope,
I, if I'm going to be giving some advice to Josh Kraft, your campaign can't be cringe. I just want to throw it out there when I
mm,
people who are kind of in town, you can't be cringe. Okay, go out, talk to the people, like be upfront, go meet with them, ask them what their issues are. They'll be straightforward and they'll tell you. So if I'm giving you advice, don't run a cringe campaign. Don't run a high PR campaign. You have to be on the ground. You have to talk to people in Boston because Michelle Wu doesn't talk to people in Boston. People in Boston don't fucking support her bullshit bike lane crap, and neither they don't support the soccer field nonsense either. Go talk to people. See what their actual issues are and run with on their actual issues. Okay? That's only my piece of advice. You need to make yourself look like a real person.
yeah, don't try to be cool.
Don't try to be cool.
That's the thing.
Trust me,
That's the
trying to
kiss
be
of
cool is cringe. You need to go
that
out. You need to make sure you look like you care because you do care.
that
You're
that is
running for this for a reason.
that is the kiss of death for any politician, is just doing something because you think it might be cool. Now, if you just do something and it winds up being cool for some, and I'll give you an example, and people may not like it, the Donald Trump YMCA dance. This now, is he a good dancer? No. Did he intentionally do it to try to make it a thing? No.
No,
He
I think
just went up there. He likes that song at his rallies. He did it, and he just sort of gets into the groove and he dances, and it
and
somehow
it goes viral. Like
weirdly
it's
becomes cool. Like, but
yeah,
Maura Healey doing a TikTok dance, taking the time to set up that camera,
man, she
put
is
in
not
your
smooth.
office, like
She is not smooth, Jeff.
it is so cringe. It is the cringiest
She,
thing.
she is not smooth,
Oh
Jeff.
God, let me. I gotta pull it up
I,
just so we can laugh at it. I'm sorry.
I don't know. She's so awkward. It's hard. I it would be one thing if you could pull that off. And I find it funny
Okay.
she's also bringing Kim Driscoll around a lot more because Kim Driscoll, again, I used to live in Salem, actually has a personality. So that, I think that's the reason why she's
So,
Driscoll.
so on screen, I'm not playing the audio for the viewers at home. Caitlin, you can't see it. Is Maura Healey doing exactly this? This is the cringiest shit imaginable. And Josh Kraft, if anybody on your campaign team suggests you do something like this, fire them right away. Don't even hesitate. Be like, it's nice. It's been nice working with you. Bye bye. Get out the door. Because if you do something like this, it is. Oh my God! Politicians, don't try to be cool. Don't try to be hip. Just do what you need to do, which is help run the government and try to get elected. And this does not help you get elected. It is the worst thing in the world for politicians to do. And Maura Healey's famous for this nonsense. Anyway, you do that, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Okay. Michelle Wu, a little advice: stop trying to play piano with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. You shouldn't be
It's cool
practicing your
that you
hand. You shouldn't
do.
be.
That's actually one of the things that makes you human. At the same time, I need you to not go cringe and like really promote things that are unpopular. Like, I don't know, bike lanes that take up four lanes, and then a soccer stadium that's not, I don't know, gonna
or
cost the Boston taxpayer a bunch of money, but also
or
you're not gonna take the money and put it into schools. I don't know.
increasing your budget by 8% when you're having
Yeah.
a deficit, like just basics, real basics. She doesn't know what she's doing. She hasn't known what she's
Right.
doing, and and she's gotten a free ride for far too long, and the
Right.
media establishment supports her. And the biggest one is the Boston Globe, because this let me end with this. And I don't know if this is true. The anti-Woo coalition, that X account, put this out that the husband of one of the main investors of the Boston women's soccer stadium and team, the husband got the no bid contract for allegedly got the no bid contract for the demolition of the stadium. Now, I took down my old tweet that I said this is absolute crazy, and I wanted him or her to put a link up for the anti-Woo coalition, because that needs to be like proven. I'm not gonna allegedly. Now, if that happened,
I
lady,
mean,
what is the matter with like they're
that should be public knowledge
yeah.
because that contract would have to be
Mm-hmm.
public. It wouldn't be hard to find it. You just have to dig a little bit.
So Linda
And
Pizzuti,
you'd have to actually probably go to Boston City Hall
yeah,
and ask for the information.
Linda Pizzuti, who runs the Boston Globe, husband of John Henry, I heard has backed out of this Boston Unity soccer team because of the controversy. So they've
Mhm.
done kick gloves. Like, I'm telling you, I don't think this is going to happen. But by the time it doesn't happen, she's going to be well within the campaign, and the damage is already done and will continue to be done. And they just don't get it. You have to do what the common sense thing is, and it's just escaping these progressives. They just do not understand it. It's baffling to me, and they're hurting their own reputations. So, while we are the Rhino podcast and conservatives, we are supporting Democrat Josh Kraft in his bid for mayor, because I love Boston. I
I mean,
love Boston. It is
I'm
my
pretty
favorite.
support. Right. I'm supportive of incrementalism.
Yeah,
You gotta have to cut back. And I think Josh Kraft, while he and I will disagree on a lot, we do agree on, I don't know, fiscal sanity,
yeah,
a line of it at least. Not making bad decisions for the city of Boston. I think that he and I can agree on that and find common ground. Um, Mayor Wu and I don't have any common ground. Although if she needs a Botox lady, I've got a great one.
Ooh, I don't support Caitlin's statements on that at all, and that's just mean. Come on, that's
No.
mean. Oh, Jesus. All right. Well, with that, how do I? Oh, we can't continue on that. All right. Thank you very much. Go to the patreon.com/rhinopod. Only $1 a month for extra content. We just see a good episode on Jonah Goldberg and him missing the point. So blame big government if you're out there watching. Go sign up for the Patreon. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
If it's Sunday, it's the Rhino Podcast.
It's Sunday. It's the Rhino Podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye.